This is Lynn Pedotto with Adapt Chicago Productions. Today we have as our guest Mike Baker, who is the State Advocacy Chair for Autism Speaks and is also the parent of a son with autism. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Mike, so you're here to discuss the PUNS list.
Yes.
What is it?
PUNS list is a short version of the priority of urgency of need of services. It's a statewide database which collects information of people with developmental disabilities that have the potential that need services in the near future. And the lawmakers take that information, and when there's funding available and also a vacancy in the state system, they pull people off the PUNS list.
Okay, so why is it important for people to register for the PUNS list?
Because you cannot receive services until you are on the PUNS list. And my experience with the PUNS list was by accident back in 2005. Like you said, I have a child with autism, and I found out about PUNS by accident and found out the need to sign up for the PUNS list. So I've been on the PUNS list for over 9 years, and my involvement with PUNS developed from as a parent to a head of a parent group to working with Autism Speaks about finding families, so many families that are not signed up, and by my research you have to be on the PUNS list to receive services. And so that's why I'm here today, as far as there's so many people that need to sign up for PUNS list that are not educated as far as what it is and why they need to be there.
Okay, so if it's an education issue, do you think it's only an education issue, or there could be other reasons why they're not signing up for this list?
Well, some of the reasons is the PASS agencies, the pre-authorization screening agencies, are not getting out into the communities to sign people up as much as they should. I'm finding out that 12% of people eligible to be signed up for the PUNS list are signed up, so that leaves about 88% of people that either don't know about the PUNS list or know about the PUNS list and don't sign up. And if you don't sign up, the legislators are not going to know who you are, where you live, and what kind of needs that you have. So with Illinois being the way it is, 47 to 51st in funding for people with disabilities, and with a waiting list of just under 22,000, legislators are not going to know that there's 88% of people out there that are not even signed up.
Wow, 88% of people. That's incredible when you think about it.
Right, because with autism, there's 130,000 people with autism, from children to adults. And that's not including other people with developmental disabilities. And there's only a little under 22,000 people on the PUNS list. So at least so many people the legislators aren't accounting for that they don't know about, and they have no basis to plan for future funding. That's what PUNS is, have a waiting list so you can see who's out there, what the needs are, and you can plan for the future. So you can't send a message to Springfield if you're not signed up for the PUNS list.
Okay, so the legislators basically need it in order to plan, give
Right.
the funding and allocate the funds necessary in order to help people with developmental disabilities.
Right, and as a parent, as an advocate, I've been talking with legislators, and one thing they say for sure is that they need people to come up and speak with them about what their needs are. But if you're not signed up for the PUNS list, they have no idea who you are, where you live, what kind of needs that you have. So that's why it's important. We need to start somewhere as far as fixing the disability system in Illinois, and the number one place to start would be to sign up for the PUNS list. Once you sign up for the PUNS, the state knows you're there, and they can plan for your needs. So if you plan for your needs of your child, so when they get to be adult, they know you're there, and they can plan on having funding for your child.
Okay, well, how does a parent sign up for the PUNS list?
Okay, first of all, they sign up, they find a local PASS agency, which is pre-authorization screening agency, and you find out based on the county that you live in, and you call them up and get an intake. You usually start with an intake over the phone, which they ask you questions about your child. What kind of developmental disability do they have, and what kind of needs are you looking for, whether you're critical, which means like right now, or you're emergency, or you're in planning stage. And based on the intake interview, they put you on the PUNS list. And that's not guaranteeing services, but when a spot becomes available in the disability system and funding becomes available, you get picked off the PUNS list, and then you are now eligible for services. so that it's important that you have step one before you get to step two as far as taking care of your child.
And how long does it normally take before you're moved from the list to receiving services?
Well, I've been on it my son's been on it for 9 years.
Wow.
So he's, and there's, as far as the way the system is now, they cannot tell you when your child is going to be pulling out the PUNS list. It's all depending on availability of funding and also slots in the system that are available. There's some people who have been on for 2 years, and that's one of the issues as far as a parent, that I would like the state to tell me what my status is for my child every year with the PUNS list. And that's one of the things that advocates need to work on, as far as talking with your legislators, as far as how to improve things that need to be improved on in the PUNS list. And the big thing is telling people what your status is, having the state tell a parent what their status is of their child every year.
So basically, send out a letter saying you're now number
5 or
whatever.
Yeah,
18,000 on the list.
Right. It's a process. It's an ongoing process in which a parent like myself would like to know, like, every year, am I improving on the list? Is my son getting closer to services, or is he getting farther away?
Well, and I guess ultimately we would really like to do away with the list where we can fund these people as they need services,
Right.
but we're not at that stage yet in Illinois.
No. Last year was the first year where the state picked more people off the list than people that signed up. Okay. And as far as the things is the shadow list, as far as people that not even signed up, the state averages 3,000 people a year sign up for the PUNS list. And that's a drop in the bucket. It's maybe, like I said, 12% of available people that are signed up. And by 2017, people getting pulled off the list is going to slow down because of the latest lawsuit. So, it's best to be signed up now and prepare yourself for the future. Mm-hmm. Sign up for the PUNS list should be up there with special needs trust, as far as a parent with developmental disability, as far as preparing your child for the future.
Oh yes, definitely. Well, I understand from you that our legislators are really getting involved and interested in the PUNS list and seeing what they can do about it. And you recently testified before Illinois state officials. Can you tell us about that?
Well, that was on February 11th. It was in front of the Joint Appropriations Committee of the Illinois House, and there was members of the Senate and the House there. It was in Schaumburg on February 11th, in which we were able to testify as what we think needs to be improved with the PUNS list, and we also listen to what state administrators talk about the condition of the PUNS list and where it is today, how many people are on the list, how many people are being pulled off. And one of the things, which when I started with Autism Speaks about a year ago, I'm the state advocacy chair, like you mentioned, and one of the things I wanted to prioritize is the PUNS list, because I want to have a starting point for advocacy, and PUNS list is a great way to start. And it was a good chance for me as a parent to talk about what I would like to see with the PUNS list. And one of the things was education. And as an advocate for Autism Speaks, we're pushing for the PUNS list to be introduced in parent meetings, by a caseworker, starting at early childhood on up to high school, as far as every IEP meeting or every parent meeting, having school caseworkers talk to parents about the PUNS list, about what it is, why you need to sign up, so that eliminate the problems as far as people not knowing about the PUNS list, and also having administrators develop relationships with PASS agencies where they come in and have sign-up nights inside the schools, so we can increase the sign-up, increase the amount of people that legislators need to think of as far as funding for developmental disabilities.
Seems like an easy solution. How did they receive your message?
They received it very, very well, and they were going to be talking with the Illinois Board of Education. It's the easiest solution up to getting legislation passed. It's something that's should have been done a long time ago, and might be done sporadically in different school districts. But we want to have a uniform introduction in the IEP meetings and parent meetings for parents with developmental disabilities to find out about the PUNS list. So they find out at early childhood and they sign them up so they're prepared as the years go on, for when their child will need services.
Well, definitely, and I think now every pre-kindergartner has to be screened for developmental delays and learning difficulties. So
Right.
it makes sense that you just, for the parents who they see that there may be a problem or something, a disability going on with their child, to say, well, here's this list.
Right.
You can sign up for it now.
Well, I think the problem was getting legislators to pay attention to the issues, and avenues like this, getting the word out to the public as far as the PUNS list, is a great way to educate people about what it is. You can go on the Department of Human Services website to find out about the PUNS list, or you can contact Autism Speaks. But it's step one. I've met so many families that need services right away, and the first thing when I was head of a support group was, "Hey, you sign up for the PUNS list?" No. So if you're not signed up for the PUNS list, it's kind of, you can't, as an advocate, you really can't help too many people, because they need to be signed up for the PUNS list or they're not going to be pulled for services. So that's why I think it's very important as an advocate for Autism Speaks to get the word out there about the PUNS list, educate people, and have them sign up so legislators know that you're out there and they can plan for the future as far as funding. So.
Yeah, no, definitely, it's very important. And I guess a question would be is, if you don't have a child with a developmental need or intellectual disability, what can we do in order to help support your mission?
Well, PUNS sign-up nights would be the biggest thing. There's a lot of people out there that can volunteer their time to develop a relationship with a PASS agency, like mine in Cook County's Community Alternatives Unlimited. Developing a relationship with them to organize a PUNS night for families with developmental disabilities to bring their child or teenager or adult in there with the latest version of their IEP or Social Security card, and have a time, set aside time where people can bring their kids in and get them signed up in a half-hour appointment on the PUNS list. That's what people that don't have children with developmental disabilities can do. And also, just if you see somebody with a developmental disability, talk to them. Do you know about the PUNS list? And get the word out there whenever way possible, because the more people we have sign up on the PUNS list, the more attention the legislators in Springfield will take to developmental disability issues. So if they see, instead of 22,000 are on the list right now, they see 100,000 on the list, that's going to bring more attention to the issues with the people with developmental disabilities, knowing that that's a very large population out there, and they're going to be adults, and they're going to eventually need services, and it's something we need to pay attention to.
Yeah, definitely, numbers speak.
Right, numbers.
Especially in Illinois and in Washington,
they
speak.
Because we're 47th to 51st in funding for services, and I've been at it for a number of years, and as a parent with a child with autism, I've spoken to legislators as an individual. And as an individual, individual numbers really are important, because if myself speaks to a legislator and 50 others speak to the legislator, that's more powerful than just an individual.
Oh, definitely. We need many voices out there.
Right.
And many advocates. So is there anything final that you'd like to say before?
Well, I'd like to appreciate the time that you have. I'm an advocate, and my child is very important to me, and I do this in my free time because I think it's very important to improve the life of my child and his future, and the lives and futures of other people with developmental disabilities. So that's why I'm doing it. I'm doing this on my free time, and I'm very passionate about what I do, and I think it's very important to get the word out for the PUNS list, to sign up and provide a voice for the people that need protection. My son needs protection, and I'm his voice, and my voice says, do whatever you can to prepare your child for the future.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for coming out and helping to spread the word about PUNS and the need to register. And thank you for joining Adapt Chicago Productions. This is Lynn Pedotto. Thank you. Hi, this is Lynn Pedotto with Adapt Chicago Productions. Today we have as our guest Juan Aponte with CAU.
Thank you for having me.
What is PUNS? Can you tell our audience what it is?
Yes, PUNS is an acronym. It stands for Prioritization of Urgency of Need for Services, and essentially it's more commonly known as the waiting list for services. It's something that we have been doing for the last 10 years. And essentially what the purpose of the PUNS is as a survey it's to document the need of the person with a developmental disability. It is a face-to-face interview that we do. And with most families, we talked about existing supports. We document those supports that are needed by the individual, whether the state of Illinois Department of Human Services provides the funding or not. And then we talk about different categories where to place the person. But the essence of PUNS is documenting needs, met needs and unmet needs, so that the Department of Human Services Division of Developmental Disabilities does know that this person with developmental disabilities does exist, supports that they have at the present time, supports that they need, whether they're funded or not, and then plan for the future.
Okay, and how long are people usually on the list before they receive services?
Typically, I mean, right now, and interesting that you asked that, Lynn, because I recently attended a hearing on the PUNS waiting list, and people are concerned at different levels as to why we're documenting our needs and we still haven't heard from this type of funding, because it is a waiting list. From a case management standpoint, we work two angles, trying to document the people's needs in the PUNS the lottery way, or justifying crisis. And so trying to decipher how long it takes for somebody from the time they get enrolled in the database of PUNS to the time they get services, it varies. When you talk about different categories within the PUNS form, you talk about planning for need, which is somebody needing services more than a year away, less than 5. When somebody's critical, that will be the same individual at the age of 20, 21, with a year left of special education services, and they are going to need something within a year, so that makes them critical. Or God forbid something happens to the family and one of the caregivers is injured in any way, shape, or form, and whatever health impairments prevent the person from accessing or providing for the needs of that individual in question, then that moves them to an emergency category. So, but we always, when we talk about PUNS, we always tell families, by all means, get your needs documented in PUNS. Why? Because it is the starting point. That's where we start. When people come to us for PUNS, they call our main number at Community Alternatives CAU, 773-867-4000. The operator will get their name and number, and then somebody will come in and do the PUNS with them face-to-face. At the time of the PUNS completion, we also give the family some resources that they could explore, because some of the basic resources like respite, special recreation supports, social recreational supports are services that are available, but you don't have to justify crisis need. The way the state has evolved with providing services for people, either you have to be a crisis or you have to be selected from the PUNS.
And do people have to reapply every year for the PUNS list? I've heard that you have to reapply every year. Oh, updating. Okay, 'cause people tell me you have to reapply, but it's actually updating. What does that mean?
To answer your question, Lynn, typically what would happen if you were to do PUNS with a family member today, and I do your face-to-face PUNS, typically after we do the PUNS, within a month of the PUNS completion, you will get a notification from the Department of Human Services Division of Developmental Disabilities confirming that the PUNS was completed. Then typically 2 to 3 months before the anniversary date of the PUNS, because the family member gets a copy of the PUNS, the family member also gets a notification from DHS Division of DD, Developmental Disabilities, that it is time to renew the PUNS. Please contact your local PASS agent. And if any family members in the audience live in the Lake County area, suburban Cook County, or Chicago North, that will be the area that Community Alternatives Unlimited CAU will cover. It is always good to update the PUNS, because you never know what's going to happen in your home. So from the time we do the first face-to-face PUNS and I give you the resources, we definitely have to remind ourselves we have to update. Now, what happens if you don't? If there is a lottery selection, just because you did not update, that doesn't mean that you're taken out of the list. You're still on the list.
So if you don't live in Lake County or North suburban Chicago, how do people find out what agency they need to contact?
There is a list, and if you check the DHS, Department of Human Services, Division of Developmental Disabilities website, there is a listing of the local PASS agents, pre-admission screening agents, or ISC, individual service coordination agencies. We are one of 18 statewide. And if you live in McHenry County, Kane County, there's our equivalent that covers those areas. But if you go to the DHS website, it will show you, based on your address or zip code, which area will serve you.
Okay, and what kind of documentation do people need to register, say, a loved one or get themselves registered on the list?
Good question, because typically we can talk about what is required when doing PUNS, and then we can talk about what we as an agency have decided to do to make sure that we confirm eligibility for services. If you talk about what is required for PUNS, the person with the developmental disability has to be there. It's a face-to-face interview. That, in addition to a copy of their Social Security card. But as you can tell, it is very hard from somebody like me as a clinician and a PASS agent to confirm if somebody has a developmental disability, because, make no mistake, this is funded by the Division of Developmental Disabilities. So in the past, we have had some problems with people who had special needs, but they did not have a confirmed developmental disability. What we ask, in addition of what is required, is a copy of their last IEP, the most recent individualized education program IEP. If there is an existing school psychological evaluation, typically they have a placement diagnosis for somebody, and that will help us tremendously, because we're planning for the future of this individual. So the more you can bring, the better. A copy of the Medicaid card, if the person has a Medicaid card, because you're trying to access Medicaid-funded services. So Social Security card, Medicaid card, the last IEP, and the last psychological evaluation. But if that's not there, if you have an IEP and you don't have a psychological evaluation, you're okay. And the person, of course, for a face-to-face PUNS interview.
And how long does it take?
It depends. I think if you have somebody that comes in and they know pretty much what PUNS is, it should not take more than 30 minutes. For somebody who is looking for a lot of information, and it happens sometimes, it could go off for to 45 minutes or more.
Okay. And I actually brought my son, who has a diagnosis of autism, to register for the PUNS. And Juan's kind enough, he is going to walk us through it, which hopefully we'll catch on videotape, because Nathan, as I understand, quite a few children who come in, is not too keen on this location. I think he's a little nervous. So do you encounter that a lot? Because as a parent, I'm sure, they have anxieties about bringing their children if they act out or whatever. So
it does happen more often than we think. I mean, sometimes we have to be very empathetic to people's needs. They come to a brand new building they don't know. Some of these individuals, small children, adolescents, adults, they have difficulties with transition. So typically, I mean, we don't make you sit for 30 minutes if you can't. If somebody is very active or they're distressed in any way, shape, or form, we'll talk to mom and dad and say, you know what, I got to see him. You got the information that I requested. Let me confirm real quick, and we get you to sign the forms. If anything else happens, we can talk to you over the phone or whatever. I mean, there are times that we have to make exceptions to the rule, because we know that some people cannot sit for 30 minutes or longer.
Right. Yeah, no, it's hard, and especially, as you said, when they're a little anxious, or the transitions, they just can't handle that. So it's good for parents to know that you guys work with us and help make it easier, so that you can get your child or your loved one on this list, because it really is important for planning for the future.
Yes. And I don't know if we talked about this before, but we are doing more outreach events for PUNS. So for some of the people in the audience that would like to know more about, when are you guys coming out to do outreach? Typically, when we do outreach, I select a team of my individual service coordinators who will be interested in doing PUNS outreach after hours. So typically, we're talking about 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at night, and we have had a good turnout in every single school district, primarily, that we've gone to. But because the need is there, I mean, it is important for us to document those needs across settings, and so far we have gotten a pretty good turnout. I think at the end of March, we started doing more outreach in September of 2013. By the end of March, we would have completed our 12th outreach event, and people keep calling for more of those, because that's a way where you can document people in the PUNS database at large numbers versus coming here for an interview.
Yeah, and it might be if they're going to their school for the outreach, it might be more familiar for the parent, for the child, so just might be easier all around.
Yes.
So, okay, well, anything else you think our audience should know about PUNS and signing up for it that we haven't covered?
The sooner people document their needs, the better it is. I think for parents especially who have kids or young adults in special education, please remember that special education is a mandated service. Adult services is not. So the sooner you document your child's needs in a system outside of special education, then people are going to know who they are. And then hopefully if there is a selection, on a lottery selection, great, but from a case management standpoint, we don't bank everything on a lottery selection. We try to justify crisis need, which is what we do 24/7, 365 here at CAU.
Okay. And what is the phone number again?
Main number is 773-867-4000. If you press 0 for the operator, our receptionist, whoever is working the desk that day, will take your name and number, and somebody will call you back to set up a time for an interview here for PUNS.
Well, thank you. And like we have had as our guest Juan Aponte with CAU, and thank you so much.